This is Before It Was Headlines, It Was Prophecy, and I'm your host, Katie Elizabeth. I'm going to share just a couple of thoughts today. I know that, suffice it to say, the four writers are still writing. There is still no peace. There is still no secure economy. Illness is increasing, and the remedies are getting more frightening. And this need to divide and conquer, or conquer and reign, is just continuing to develop. And sadly, it's even developing amongst those who call themselves believers. It's no longer just between nations or just between differing religions. It's actually coming, and sadly, it's not even based on what I would consider a foundational salvation issue. It's just a lie. The differences are abounding and astounding. And we need to all remember, as believers, it is, after all, His word is final, not ours. I don't have the final say. I've read what the final word says. What the word says is final, and I believe that. But my detailed understanding, I'm going to be real honest, my mind is not big enough to wrap around the fullness and the vastness that our Creator, who our Creator is. I believe it, and I know Him, and I know His voice, but He is so much more than I can even fathom. And I think we all need to keep that in mind. When it's all said and done, it is Yehovah His word that stands forever. So having the last word at Facebook or social media is not really going to be the final word. Sometimes I feel like I probably sound like a broken record as I talk about, especially the lack of peace. I think that rider on that red horse really, because that was the first time that I had that revelation knowledge. It's like, wow, I heard this, I see this. But today I'm going to talk some about persecution because it is coming. And I'm also going to discuss the various time calculations regarding these end of days that we truly believe we're living in, because it was announced after Messiah's ascension and after the apostles received the Holy Spirit. The end of days had officially been declared, but we don't know how long those last. Well, now that people are starting to say, I'm serious, I'm reading it, I'm hearing it, people are saying we're already so far into the tribulation and everything, I don't agree with that. And the basic reason I don't agree with that is because if we start putting a timetable on how bad it is, and it ends when Messiah returns, then we're saying, no man can know the day or the hour. That's what we're told. But I want to make a couple of points here today. Too often we assume that we're ready to be martyrs because we can argue on social media until no one makes another post. I've written books, and I will stand behind what I've written, but I covered this last week in the show. I've never been faced with life or death decision. I haven't been faced with that. So I like to hold on and believe that I would bring glory and honor to God. But so far I haven't been faced with that. And to be real honest, the way we all, interact on social media, I want to tell you, lack of proper etiquette is not persecution. Being treated rudely is not persecution. It hurts our feelings. We may be offended or take offense. But it's nothing what has already been faced by prophets and apostles. It's nothing compared to what some believers are facing already in other countries. And we may well be facing that. We know we will if we're alive through those truly terrible times. But the fact that some people feel like because we've had some home foreclosures or some job losses, that is not, here in America, it's like that's not a sign that we are in the worst of times. It just isn't. The fact that we're losing some assumed and presumed luxuries does not mean we're in the terrible times of tribulation. And I'm not saying a roof over your head shelter is a luxury, but what I'm saying is our definition of it is. Just basic shelter is not what most of us live in at all. We live a much higher standard. Now, so we aren't being persecuted yet for our beliefs. And some, and I've seen it, we've all seen it, we've probably all done it on occasion. Being so religiously annoying that friends and family avoid us, dysfunctionality is not holiness. Let's don't get confused on that. They're probably the same method and the same interaction we have with people that are struggling with us now over our beliefs. They struggled with us before over different things. Or we struggled with them. Let's don't confuse our own works of the flesh and our own personality quirks for holiness. It's too late in the game to heap on that confusion. What we need to do is really allow the great spirit of our Creator to just go through our very essence with His refining fire and just burn out all the preconceived notions. And then there's also the never-ending declaration of how much the enemy is attacking. I'm going to be real blunt here about this in just a minute through this show. This enemy attack business and this generational curse deal and all of this is like, hold the phone. Let's gather back in here. Because, Yeshua's ministry wasn't like what we're seeing and talking about today. What he declared was the word. He didn't have to argue his opinion. The miracles he did backed what he said. He believed in what he said he represented. Who he said he represented. Messiah's interaction with the enemy took place in a matter of 40 days. That was that. It wasn't an ongoing under attack. And we need to face something very, very seriously. Messiah Yeshua was doing more for the kingdom of Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh than any of us can even imagine. And he was not constantly under the enemy attack. Human attack, flesh attack from all directions, yes. Enemy attack, no. And I've really gotten to the point where the reality seems, all this double talk seems idolatrous and prideful. And that scares me when I hear it for that person. It's like, Messiah, greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. And that is the flesh or the adversary. But if we look at Messiah's example of how he dealt with the adversary, 3 right-on scriptures to pair that. I'm believing if we're following him, the same thing is true for us. There are a few references made about Yeshua's family and his friends. And, there was a couple of times they thought he was a little off the beam. They said, he was beside himself. And then the disciples' mother, James and John, the wife of Zebedee, she needed to have some reassurance that her son's, leaving the family business was going to result in, a pretty nice position eternally. So, there were some family and friend situations, but Yeshua's already said the end of days would bring strife in the families. And that's not necessarily based, again, that's not necessarily based on our walk and on our life. He just said that would happen in the end of days. So if it's happening outside of our personality failings, it's fulfillment of prophecy. If, on the other hand, our beliefs are just the latest uproar and it's just an ongoing, it's just a new issue, same old thing, it's time to step back and make sure we're truly operating in His love. I'm coming on strong today because I really believe as these holy days are coming, we are looking into that. We're looking at that in less than 2 weeks. Feast of Trumpets. And it's like, I really think we've got to press in and get serious and get real, and it's got to be more than talk. Yeshua said it would be more than talk. I'm seeing some articles and blogs and hearing some talk that folks are starting to count down the end of days. I touched on that. We don't know the day or the hour Messiah is coming back. And to be real honest, things can get a lot more difficult, and will, than we're already complaining about. It said it would take an entire day's work just to have enough food for one person. That's where it's going to go before we see the culmination of the fifth seal. A fourth of the world's population is going to be wiped out with plague and pestilence before we see the opening of we see the manifestation of the opening of the fifth seal. I can't say it's not open. I'm saying we aren't seeing the fullness of that manifestation. But these things are going to happen, and they were given in an order. Something that I want to just challenge all of us to be praying and seeking on is, we've established that the workers of iniquity are the lawless ones. And in Matthew 7:23, when they say, but did we not prophesy and cast out demons and do mighty works in your name? And he says, depart from me, ye workers of lawlessness. We've been, the internet, the local gatherings, every place is filled with this debate of lawlessness, grace. But what's really burdening my heart is we're overlooking a statement here that we need to pay attention to. And Yeshua said this. We've already accepted that the religious faith healing showmanship of, we understand a lot of that is wolves in sheep's clothing, just fleecing the flock. We know. When Yeshua said, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name cast out devils. And in thy name done many wonderful works. And then we pick it up and say, and he says, depart from me, ye workers of lawlessness. What I'm saying is, why aren't we concerned with this? If those guys that were cast out were doing all of this, why aren't we concerned that that's what we need to be doing on top of our obedience? Because of our obedience, Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh can actually do those works through us. Because we are seeking Him, and we do follow Messiah in what it is to walk, seeking our Creator. Why aren't all these manifestations evidence in our life? How can we be so sure, well here, well done, thou good and faithful servant, when He can't use us in the same way He used Messiah while walking on this earth? That's what I'm wondering about. That's what I'm seeking. This has been, before it was headlines, it was prophecy. I'm Katie Elizabeth.